Avshalom has been killed. David mourned for him, but then Yoav pushed him into putting on a smile, so to speak, a brave face, in order to lift the morale of the rest of the army. They shouldn't be sad or feel that they were bad having won the war. Okay, David then tries to. The whole situation in the country was unstable because he'd really been rejected by the people as king, and they hadn't picked anybody else. And there was talk in the tribes of bringing David back. Maybe we should bring him back, maybe we shouldn't bring him back. It's true we didn't want him, but on the other hand, he's the one who fought for us the whole time, whether it was under Shaul or later on when he was king. So there was talk about that. David heard about this talk, and he didn't want that the people of Yehuda should be the last ones to join. You see, if they don't join now, they might never join. And the people of the other tribes may never join either. So David's sort of playing, it would seem, putting pressure on the people of Yehuda. If you don't come now, you'll be last. So they decided to come and bring David back. Okay, so the people of Yehuda were on their way to bring David back. Then the delegation from Yerushalayim, wherever it was, right. And David said, if you join me, support me, then I will make Amasa, who was the head of Avshalom's army, into the head of David's army. Right? Now, the point of that is that probably it was what do we call it? Pardon. Right? He's saying he's pardoning the soldiers who joined Avshalom, because he's taking their chief of staff and making his chief of staff. It also serves David's interest because he doesn't really want Yoav. Right? He's never really wanted Yoav, because after Yoav murdered Avner, at the time when Yoav murdered Avner, the head of Shaul's army, he cursed Yoav, seriously cursed him, and the only reason why he left him in power is because he felt that he was too powerful. If he gets rid of Yoav, then Yoav may take all his men with him, and he'll have no army. So, but now it seems that he feels he's got an opportunity to get rid of Yoav, to depose Yoav, and because Amasa's got his own army. Right. And since Amasa was the head of Avshalom's troops, in a sense, he's also got a power which David can use and may not need Yoav anymore. Anyway, however you understand it politically, that's what David does. Okay? So they're on the way. Then we met other people, Shimei ben Gera. So Shimei ben Gera, he was the one who cursed David, and he's the first one to come down to the Jordan to cross David over and beg him for forgiveness. Like, yes, it was a big mistake of mine, really silly mistake, but I'm the first one to come back. Nobody else has come. All the others are humming and hawing and thinking, yeah, should we not? No, we don't really like David anymore. On the other hand, we don't have anything better. We don't know what their considerations were, but everyone else is thinking about it. He did action. He came and he brought, on his own, he brought 1,000 people from the tribe of Benjamin with him to show his, what's the word? I don't know. Support for David, and begging David to forget or to not remember, not to take to heart what he'd said in his haste. That's what we got up to in the story. Yeah? Okay. He also said that Siva, he is the servant of Mephibosheth, who had come with the 200 loaves of bread and raisins and wine to help David in his flight from Avshalom, and he appears now as well, right? And we weren't sure, why does he have to come now? He was been with him all along. No, it looks like in the story he'd gone back home. That's the one. Right, and he was the one, remember we said Ad Echad, and he is the one who now joins. So that's the picture. David is crossing the Jordan on a what we say, a ferry, crossing over the Jordan with his family, and the elders of Yehuda come to cross him over, together with Shimei, together with the 1,000 Benjaminites, and Siva. All these people are all wading through the Jordan or swimming through the Jordan, coming across with David back to the western side. That's where we are up to.
And why does David not like Yoav again?
Yoav murdered Avner. Avner was the chief of staff of Shaul's army. When Shaul died, his son called Ishbosheth, not Mephibosheth, Ishbosheth was one of his last remaining son. He became king, and Avner was the chief of staff of that kingdom's army, and Yoav killed him. the excuse that Yoav killed him was that Avner had come to spy. The more likely reason why Yoav killed him is because Avner had killed Yoav's brother in self-defense. That means Yoav's brother, well, there was a bit of a skirmish between the troops of David and the troops of Ishbosheth, and in this fight, Yoav's brother called Asael and chased Avner, and Avner warned him to stop the chase, and he didn't, and Avner killed Asael in self-defense. Because Avner killed Yoav's brother, Yoav killed Avner. Now, whether that's legal or illegal will be decided by Shaul HaMelech in Malachim Aleph, whether Yoav had the right to kill Avner, which really depends on whether Avner had the right to kill Asael in self-defense, right? But either way, that seems to be the real motive of Yoav killing Avner. But the problem is, it had the potential to cause a real political problem, because David was trying to make peace with the kingdom of Ishbosheth, and this had put a spanner in the works. So David took this really to heart and would have wanted to get rid of Yoav, but he couldn't do it at the time. Now, it's also possible that David knows that Yoav has killed Absalom. That's another possibility. We don't know that for sure. We know that he probably suspected Yoav of doing it because he knew that was the sort of thing that Yoav would do, right? Not because Yoav was so bad, it's just Yoav was like very hot-headed, zealous about David's kingdom. So he would do
on the trigger.
Yes, but for David, it wasn't against David. You know? When he killed Avner, in his mind, it was for David. He was killing his spy, the head of the chief of the enemy, right? And when he killed Absalom was an enemy. So, but on the other hand, it was against orders, and it wasn't what David wanted. Okay, so that could be another reason why he wants to get rid of Yoav. So now he said, if you guys join me, then Amasa will be my chief of staff. And that means that David, you see, one of the reasons why people don't want to join the guy who won is because he made them punish all the people who had joined Absalom. So this is a good move on David's part, showing, no, I don't hold it against you. I understand that you joined Absalom. Look, he's my son, and you know, I hear the point, and I know why you didn't like me, and I know why you liked Absalom better. It was a bit of a mistake because God wants me to be king, and the prophet made me king, but it's not such a terrible mistake, right? And therefore he's forgiven them, and he does that. He shows this by appointing Amasa. Now, comes along Shimon ben Gera and begs for forgiveness. So on Pasuk Chaf Aleph, and he explains. No, we did already. Pasuk Chaf Beis on page 45.
What?
45. Vaya'an Avishai. Sorry. Vaya'an Avishai. And Avishai. Who's Avishai? He's another brother of Yoav. There's three brothers. One who's killed by Avner. One is Avishai, who's already appeared a few times. He was the one who did chop off Shimi's head when Shimi cursed David. Right? Who's going to actually let this dead dog curse you? Right? So then David already said, like, you guys are hot-headed, you sons of Tzeruiah. There's two sons now, Yoav and his brother, and he's going to say, Vayan Avishai ben Tzeruiah. Avishai ben Tzeruiah spoke up. That's what it means, Vayan. He spoke up. It can mean to answer, but in the context it really means to speak up. And to Shimi's request for pardon. And he said, lo yuma Shimi. Instead of this, Shimi shouldn't die. Means we think that Shimi shouldn't die because he's come here first. Is that a good reason? He says, look, I was the first one to join your rank. I came back. Nobody else has come back yet. And I have all the tribes. I was the first guy to show my support for David. So Abi says, you think that's a good enough reason to let him off? Right? Yes. I mean, is that a good reason?
All right, you are.
Well, really? I mean, is it like, you know, do we accept Tshuva? God accepts Tshuva, but you know, a guy comes and tries to assassinate the king and there's well, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course you came and said you're sorry. That doesn't mean it's sincere, does it? You know if you don't do this, if you know this for sure, you're going to get your head chopped off. Yeah. That's for sure. So it's not necessarily sincere.
Did he try and say, I thought he was just throwing stones at him.
Well, yeah, just at the king.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Imagine? And he was cursing him as well. He said, get out of here, you murderer, you womanizer, sinner, and without any conscience. That's really bad.
Yeah.
Right? So he certainly deserved to have his head chopped off, that's for sure. But now he's begging to be forgiven, and he says, look, I am the first one to come back. So Avishai says, you think that's a good reason? Because of this statement of your allegiance to David and your loyalty to him. Lo yuma Shimi, Shimi shouldn't die. Ki Mashiach Hashem, but he means ki, but rather Kilel, he has cursed the anointed one of God. And that was his mistake. You might think this guy doesn't deserve to be king, but God thought he was. God was the one who anointed him. David doesn't like this. Again, this hot-headedness of the family of Yoav. What is to me and to you means I have no connection. I have no need for your hot-headedness, sons of Tzeruiah, because they had this common mother. Yoav Tzemah Avisha who was David's sister. That you should be to me as a Satan. What is a Satan? Doesn't really mean accuser. A Satan is the accuser, but that's not what the word Satan means. Satan means hindrance. An accuser is a hindrance means someone who gets in the way.
Wait, a Satan.
A Satan. The word Satan does not mean Satan. Well, obviously it does, because that's what the word is.
Yeah, that is Satan comes
Yes.
from Satan.
The word as a verb, it means to get into somebody's way.
Wow.
I thought it was miss.
That is
Yeah.
No, that's chet.
Casually
Chet.
meaning
That's
like
sin.
like-
Oh, sin.
Right. No. When the angel stands in the way of Bilam, who's on his way to curse Bilam with his donkey,
What is
right?
called Satan?
He says, I came here l'satan loy, as a verb.
To
To-
be a hindrance to you.
That's what it means, right?
Wow.
That's what it means. Satan means something that's in the way. Okay? So that's what it means over here as well. Should we kitiyu li, that you should be, if I do this, that's what it means. David has a very complex, complicated political situation on his hands. Do you appreciate that? In pen? Yes, please. Yeah. Right? This very delicate situation that David's got to deal with. If you let the guys off, then what does the world learn? You get away with being insubordinate. If you kill the people you beat, then you supply the fuel for a new insurrection. The people who have been defeated by the king from their own country, understand, this is a civil war. What do you do when you win a civil war? What do you do with the other guys? You kill them all, then they're your guys. Let them all off, or then we're encouraging another civil war, because I know I'll get let off. So it's very delicate exactly where to draw the line. Okay? So, yes, Shimei clearly deserves to be punished. But on the other hand, if we do that, then everyone else who was on Avshalom's side will be scared. So why should we make peace with David and come to ask him, to chop off on too? Right? So David says, you're in the way. Your advice is getting in the way of me making stability, peace, and coming to terms and making this back into one united nation. This is not a good idea. Maybe at some point we'll have to put on these guys on trial and we'll have to sort it out so that justice will be seen to be done. But now isn't the time to do it. Now we have to be more forgiving and we're loving, we'll give a hug, and we won't do it again. At some point when things are settled, I'm back in power, then we can say these guys have to be put on trial. But now isn't the time. That's what he says. Ki tiyuli hayoim. Today you will be in the way, you'll be a hindrance to my plans of consolidating my control over all the Jewish people. Hayoim yumas ish b'Yisrael. That's a question. Should a man of Israel to die in Israel today? Means he shouldn't. Not today. Tomorrow or next week or in a month's time, we'll talk about it, but not today. Ki halo yodati. Halo, do I not know? Ki hayoim ani melech Yisrael. That today I am king over Israel. Means I want to know and I want to establish that I'm king of Israel. And therefore now isn't the time to take revenge or to punish the sinners. You shall not die. Well, that obviously doesn't mean categorically because everybody dies, right? It means I'm not going to kill you. That's what it means, right? He's not promising he's never going to die. It means you're not going to. He didn't say today, right? But it means I'm not going to be the one to kill you. And the king swore to him to put him at ease, and then Shimei could then go around telling people that the king doesn't hold it against you. He's even I cursed him. You just joined the enemy. You just joined the army, right? But I actually cursed him, threw stones at him, and even me, gave me a pardon. So therefore, you can all, go back to being the king's subjects. Okay. Next story. Mephibosheth. Who's he? Ben Shaul. He's the son of Shaul, and he's a cripple, and he's not able to walk on his own. And his servant Siva is the one who looks after him. Now Siva came with 2 donkeys laden with bread and raisins and wine. And he now Mephibosheth comes. Yorad Likras HaMelech. He went down. And why is he going down? Because you go from Jerusalem to the Jordan, you have to go down, right? Because the Jordan is the lowest place on earth. So you've always got to go down to get there. Yorad Likras HaMelech went down towards the king. Now, the Pasuk then adds in information about Mephibosheth. V'loi osa raglo. He had not done his feet. Now, what does it mean to do your feet? How do you do your feet? And it means to wash them, to cut your nails, or something like that, right? Toenails. It means it was clear that he was a bit of a mess, right? He hadn't done his feet. V'loi osa safamoi, and he hadn't done his mustache. Safam is here.
Safam.
Right? Okay? That means, really, because people had beards.
Wait,
Everyone had
mustache
beards.
or this whole thing?
This thing. No, just the mustache. That was the only bit that people had to cut. The rest of the beard, just like you had a long beard, right? So everybody had a long beard.
It's your
right?
farm.
The only bit that's in the way, you can't just let it grow because you won't be able to eat, is your mustache. So that, even people who don't touch their beard, right? Unless you're Chabadnik, who you're always sitting going like this, right? Why they go like this? Because they don't cut their mustache either. So they've got to go like this to get it out of the way of their... But this you see from here, the normal thing was not to cut your beard, but yes, cut your mustache. And it says that he didn't do his mustache either. Godov, and his clothes, safam, right, is a mustache. It's probably related to the word safa, which means the edge. It also means a language, and the things are related, right? But it really means the edges of your lips, which is what you use to talk a language. Or lashon. What does lashon mean?
Tongue.
Or also means
Language.
Yeah.
language. So lashon means a language, and lashon means a tongue. Safa means your lips, sfatayim, and it also means a language. Only one is the inner essence of the language. That's the lashon. That's why it's the tongue. One is the outer language. See, languages have words and they have meaning behind the words. Okay, so two languages can use the same word in different meanings. Right? We both talk about pants. Yes, the English people use the word pants to mean underpants, and Americans use the word pants to mean what English people call trousers. Right? So although we speak similar safa, we don't have the same lashon. Get it? English and Americans don't have the same lashon. We have the same safa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we mean different things by it. Like trunks. What's a trunk? So in America, a trunk is the back of the car. Right? To an English person, trunks are what you wear at the beach. Right? They're called swimming trunks. You know? Anyway, okay? All right. So that's the difference. So safam means the edge of your lips. Safam, probably is related, is the thing that grows at the edge of your lips, right? Which is your mustache. The esbegadav, and his clothes, loiki base, he had not washed. Okay, this is a good introduction for the 9 days, right? For 3 weeks, he didn't cut. Why? Because he was in mourning. Why was Mephibosheth in mourning? It says, lemin hayoim, that means from the day, leches hamelech, when the king went, ad hayoim, until the day, asher ba b'shalom, that he returned, or he came in peace. It means Mephibosheth had been in mourning for David, because he had gone and been in exile. So he took David's exile seriously to the point that he didn't wash his clothes, he didn't cut his hair, he didn't cut his nails, right? All those things were shut. Now, when he comes along to David, David can see that, right? Because until he actually saw David restored to his power, he still was acting like that. Okay? Vayhi, and it was, Kiva Yerushalayim, when he came to Jerusalem, Likras HaMelech, to greet the king. Now, this is a difficult pasuk. Where did Mephibosheth live?
Did he not live in Yerushalayim?
Right. How do we know? Although he didn't have his property, his estate was not in Yerushalayim, but he lived in Yerushalayim because he ate in the king's house every day. And he cripples, he couldn't ride his horse home every day. No, he lived in Yerushalayim. So he lived in Yerushalayim. So when he's greeting David, he's leaving Yerushalayim to greet David, isn't he? But it doesn't say that. It says, when he when he came to Yerushalayim to greet David.
He's a cripple, so he's not going to want to travel so far because it causes him pain, maybe.
Yeah, but still that good. But he's not coming to Yerushalayim to greet David. He's in Yerushalayim. You should say when David came to him in Yerushalayim, so like that.
Yeah.
Right. So the Malbim says it means that during the time of the rebellion of Absalom, he left Yerushalayim. Because on the one hand, he didn't want to be support. He didn't want to show his support for Absalom, but he couldn't be with David. He could be in David's way. David doesn't need a cripple amongst his running soldiers who are on the run, right? So he went home where his estate was, and he stayed there over the time of the rebellion. But now David's on his way back. So he heard David's on his back. He came towards Yerushalayim to greet David. The king said to him, immediately, he doesn't even look like he said hello, right? Because the king's got a serious complaint against him. Because the king heard from Siva that the reason, because the king David asked Siva, where's your master? Mephibosheth. And what did Siva say?
He switched sides.
Right, he switched sides with the hope that if Absalom gets killed and the people don't want you, and Absalom gets killed, then they'll make him king because he's next in line, because he's the son of Shaul. Right, grandson of Shaul. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what he did. So David's really annoyed with him. So David says to him, why didn't you come with me? What's this story I hear about you? Like, stayed there? No, you didn't stay in Yerushalayim, apparently, you can see from the story, right? But why didn't you come with me? Vayomer, this is what he says. Adoni HaMelech, Vayomer, Adoni HaMelech. He said, my master the king. That's part of what he said. Avdi Rimoni. That's got nothing to do with
servant.
My servant, very good. Avdi, my servant. Rimoni.
It's like exalted.
Oh, so you think it's from the word ram,
Right.
right? No, it's not from the word ram. But it could have been.
What's ram mean?
Ram means to lift up.
Oh.
Ram al kol goyim Hashem. Teruma is to lift up. Could be from the rimon, which means pomegranate. Doesn't mean that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's from the word leramot. Leramot means to cheat.
What?
To cheat. Rimoni means my servant cheated me.
Ah.
You heard a story from Tziva, but actually it's not the real story. It's not really what happened. He cheated me. My servant cheated. Ki amar, I said, Avdacha means, sorry, not I said, Amar, he said. Not Amar. He said, Avdacha, your servant, means your servant said. Who's David's servant? Himself. Right? To myself. That's what I said. I said, really, your servant said, Echbisha li hachamor, saddle for me the donkey. Because I can't do it myself. So I asked Siva, Echbisha means to saddle. For me. Echbisha, Chovesh, we mentioned Chovesh is a paramedic, because he's the one who wraps around the bandages on your hand. Right? So to saddle means to saddle up the donkey. For Erkav Aleha, and I will ride upon it. This is what I said to my servant. Right? Me, being your servant David, said this to my servant, Siva, that he should saddle up my donkey, and I will ride him, and I'll go to the king. Because your servant is crippled. Crippled. And therefore that's why I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't run or walk. I needed someone to saddle up the donkey, and then I would ride on the donkey, but I couldn't do it my own. And then what happened? Instead, and I had all this stuff to bring to you, 2 donkeys laden with bread and raisins and wine, and it was all my stuff, my present. And Siva tricked me, and instead of bringing me along with his stuff, he took along for himself, taking all the credit for himself and blaming me as if I had turned against you, right?
Is there a correlation between...
And Siva, right, doesn't think he's going to get caught, apparently. Not sure. Did Siva not realize at some point he's going to get found out? Don't know. Whatever. This is what Siva did. Vayiragel be'avdacha. Now, the ragel means to spy. Right? So the word regel, feet, because spies go around on their feet. Vayiragel be'avdacha. And what it means is he spied, but here it doesn't mean in that sense. It means he told tales. He told tales. He said lashon hara. Right? We usually call it rechilus. Correct? Rechilus is when you say something about somebody else, not just you say something bad about someone. That's called lashon hara. Rechilus is when you say something bad about him to the person who is affected by it. You know what I'm saying? Right? If I say that Daniel gets up late for Shacharis, that's lashon hara. right? But if I say that Daniel was the one who turned the light on when you were trying to sleep last night, right? That's Rechilus, because I'm telling you something he did that's going to affect your relationship with him, because it's something that you're not going to like him because it did. That's called Rechilus. And that's really what happened over here as well. You call that Rechilus, and that's actually related to the word Regel. You see that the words are very close. Regel, Rachel. Rachel, the Gimels become a Chof. So Rashi in Chumash says it's the same word. I said, Selech Rochil Ba'amecha. I said, Rochil is related to the word Regel, and it's because people were used to go around from house to house, used to walk. Come on, guys, see what you did, I go and tell them. So I'm walking from your house to his house, tell him what you said about it. So that's why it's called Rechilos, but it's related to the word Regel, because you have to go around and tell people. Okay, so that's Rechilos. Ragel Ba'avdecha, so you gossip, that's the word. To gossip, I think. So, better, slander. Slander is the right word. Gossip is when I tell you news. Slander is when I tell you things that he's done about you, or said about you.
What word's his word?
Ragel. He slandered against your servant. He slandered against me. Pasuk Chav Ches. El Adoni HaMelech, to my master the king. Now, David doesn't know who to believe now, does he? Now, we all believe Mephibosheth, but maybe Siva was really right. Maybe Mephibosheth is just making this whole story up. Now, David's got a dilemma. Who should he believe? Should he believe Siva, or should he believe Mephibosheth? Siva said, and Siva's actually there. Siva was one of the people who came down to greet David, right? It could be the reason why Siva came down to greet David, because he now knows that David's going to hear the other side of the story. You know, he was hoping maybe that David would get killed, or maybe Mephibosheth would get killed, right? And everything will be fine. You know, so he's playing his, putting bets either way. But now David won, and Mephibosheth didn't get killed, and has got a problem because now David's going to hear the other side of the story. That could be why. That's why Siva came down. One of the first people said after Shimon ben Gera, the next guy mentioned was Siva. So Siva's coming to hear that he shouldn't be, hear the other side without him having a chance to defend himself. Right. David will hear what Mephibosheth says. No, it's not true, and he'll otherwise. Okay. So now David's got a problem. Who's he going to believe? What should he do? Got two sides of the story.
Ask plate for the coin. Ask. Yeah.
Well,
That's a shame.
You know the first mission in Bava Metzia? Two guys holding the talus.
Yeah.
What do we do with it? Each one says it's his.
You
Cut
turn
it in half. Okay.
Oh, really?
So that's what David did over here as well. What do you mean? What had David? No, you don't rip the talus in half. No, you sell it and you pay. One gets half the money, one gets half. Unless it doesn't depreciate in value. Sometimes it could be, it's just the right size and with two small talus. It also doesn't mean that. Each one gets half means each one owns half and sells it and gets half. Okay. Now, David had promised to Tziva because he felt the treachery of Mephibosheth. He says, you can have all the property of Mephibosheth that I had returned to Mephibosheth. You can take it now. That's what I was at the beginning. Now, what's God going to do now? Because now he's heard the other side of the story. Originally, he believed him. Why? Because it sounded convincing. Why didn't Mephibosheth not come? I know, to me it doesn't sound very convincing because Mephibosheth is a cripple. He can't just come on his own. Right? Okay, still. Can't come on his own. Could have told his servant to saddle his donkey for him and bring him. Right? He didn't do that either. And the real reason is, I don't know the real one. Mephibosheth claims I did tell him to do that. But then he cheated on me and came and slandered that I joined the enemy. Right? So, what are we going to do? Pasuk, Chav, Ches. And he slandered against your servant, Adoni HaMelech, my master the king. Adoni HaMelech, my master the king, Kemalach HaMekim, is like an angel of God. Is I know that you'll be able to work out who's telling the truth. That's what it means. Just like an angel will be able to flash it out, right? To flash it out, you'll be able to as well. I trust that you'll work out who's telling the truth. Adoni HaMelech, Kemalach HaMekim, he's like an angel of God. And do what is good in your eyes. Meaning, I trust you, but the truth is, whatever you decide, I'm okay with. That's what he's saying, right? Mm-hmm. You're like an angel, then you'll probably make the right decision. But even if you don't, I accept you'll do whatever's good. As he's going to say, because that's not really important to me. I'm just so happy to see you. As you can see, look at my toes, look at my hair, look at my. You can see that I was sad that you left. Mm. So there really is a strong, I would say, evidence that Mephibosheth is telling the truth. Because you can't just grow your hair. Understand? It can't be, what am I going to do now? David's back in power. I better grow my hair. What am I going to do? It's too late, right? You can wear dirty clothes, I suppose. Right. You can make yourself smell, right? But you can't make your moustache grow long, right? One of these potions, it doesn't work. So I think there's like clear evidence, and his toenails are long as well, right? They're uncut. So he's clearly been in mourning. For how long? I don't know how long. We don't know how long this battle took. A month, 6 weeks. We don't know, right? Until Absalom got his army together. So he really looked a mess.
Right.
And he didn't usually look that. So there was compelling evidence, what Chazal called Devarim Anikorim. Devarim Anikorim is when you see a story, but there's compelling evidence to understand it in a certain way. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no proof, right? He could have just been partying every day and didn't have time to take a bath. He was so happy that David would, this is not evidence that will stand up in court. But on the other hand, it is, a strong indication that Mephibosheth is right and Ziba is wrong. And Ziba just faked the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, what should David do? He should give back Mephibosheth his property, because now he realizes it was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, he's not sure it's a mistake. For sure. So that's David's dilemma. So what does he do? And then but Ziba continues his speech. Kilai haya kol beis avi. Now that means I accept whatever you say. First of all, you're like an angel. I'm sure you'll make the right decision. Second of all, I accept whatever you say. But the reason why I would accept it is because even if you don't give me my property back, I'll understand that. And the reason why you're suspicious of what I want my plan of, why I would understand if you believed Siva's version, is because you suffered terribly from my family, right? He was Shaul's son, so he says, I understand if you hold it against me, and you don't believe me, and you believe Siva. Says, Ki lai haya kol beis avi, because all my father's house was not ki im except anshe maves, men of death. L'Adoni HaMelech, to my master the king. He's made my father's house really, well, not all of them, right? So you can't say Jonathan was, right? On the contrary, Jonathan was David's best friend, right? But he means the rest of my father's family, right? They all had it in for you. And it caused a lot of inconvenience, pain, sorrow to David. David had to flee. He kept on trying to kill him, threw spears at him, right? Several times at David. And then David had to flee, and then he killed all the people who he suspected of supporting David. So David was in exile for a long time, and all David's family were murdered indirectly as a result of this, because David had to flee with his family. They went to Moab, and the Moabites killed all David's family. So David, Shaul, either directly or indirectly, has caused David terrible pain and loss of life. And therefore I would understand if you decide to suspect that I would have wanted to join Absalom's side and be like Siva explained. I understand it. In fact, and not only did they do all this to you, but you paid good instead of bad. Means when you found out that I was alive, what do you do? And you placed your servant, together with those who eat on your table. So that was completely unnecessary. Right? So I'm awfully grateful, and I have no complaints if you decide to leave my property in the hands of Tziva. Umali oid, ma yeshli oid stoka. What do I have any right to ask for charity? Or I have no claim against you. Veliz ok od el HaMelech, to cry out to the king. Look, I've stated my claim. I don't really. Whatever you decide, I accept, because I can't really have any complaints. You've been so nice to me when my family were not nice to you. Why do you speak more? I mean, you don't say anymore. I hear the story. Fine, enough's enough. I heard all you've got to say. I've said, you and Siva will divide the land, the field, the property. So now David's made a compromise. He heard Siva's story, he heard Mephibosheth's story, so he did the first Mishnah in Bava Metzia, right? You got two guys coming to base and they're arguing about something, there's no way to prove who's right, you're half, right? This is not the same. It's not really the same. Those two guys come into the base tin holding a talus that we don't know if it ever belonged to either of them. We don't know the history of the story, right? It's not like we knew it was one and the other guy claimed to have bought it from it. No, that's not the case. Two guys found it in the street. Each one says they got it first. Well, two guys went to a shop, and each one paid money, right? And they say, the shopkeeper sold it to me. She says, the shopkeeper sold it to me. And the shopkeeper doesn't remember, right? But if one guy, we know it once belonged to A, and now B has a claim on it, then clearly the Beis Din will side with A. Because it was once A's,
Right.
well, okay, good enough? Yeah. It was once A's, and then we presume it still belongs to A until B has to prove his claim. You can't just make a claim, you have to have some type of substance. So, A, we know that it once belonged to Mephibosheth. Okay? B, there's much clearer evidence on Mephibosheth's side than Ziba. Ziba just made up a story. So at the time, David believed it. Fine, because he didn't hear the other side. But now he's heard the other side, it makes so much more sense from just looking at Ziba, right? And Mephibosheth. And Ziba has this whole story about that he wants to join the opposite side. Mephibosheth says, I'm crippled, I couldn't come on my own. Like, what do you want from me? Like, think about it, there's really no beginning to Ziba's claim. And what it goes half-half. So Chazal is very, very critical of David for doing this, right? And they said because of this, David's kingdom was split in half.
Oh.
Because exactly what happened. Eventually, not in David's reign, but in David's grandson, right, Shlomo's son Rehoboam, the kingdom was split in half. And I said, did we almost split in half? Because David split this in half. No right to side with Ziba at all. Should have thrown Ziba, right, as they say in Britain, Kol HaMadrigot, which means down all the stairs in English, right? They had no claim in court. And look, it could be if you go deeper into the Malbim as a whole approach of why there could be some evidence to support Ziba's claim, but certainly on the surface there doesn't seem to be anything to support it, and therefore David is criticized for doing this. Although as king he had the right to do it, could be, right? You know, kings not subject to the regular rules of Beis Din. He felt, well, it's not so clear, and whatever, but that's what he's happened. Mephibosheth reacts to this and he says, I don't take the whole thing. You know, I don't need it. I'm so happy, as he says. Acharei, which really means since. Asher ba Adoni HaMelech b'shalom v'nebeisai, since my master the king has come home to his house in peace, that's all that matters. Money is not important. I don't care if Tzima takes the whole thing, it's not important to me. Right? I'm just so overjoyed the king's back. And therefore, I mean, it could be that Mephibosheth feels an injustice, right? And deep inside, he's saying, look, let him keep the whole thing. But I don't know what he really feels about it, because it really isn't. Look, he said to the king, look, whatever you give me is fine, because I don't deserve anything, because my father's family was so. That it's like he's showing his loyalty to the king. Okay, it was an injustice. David is criticized for doing this. Pasuk Lamed Beis. Uvamzilai Giladi. Now who's he? Anyone know?
Who?
You don't remember. Bavzilai Hagiladi. We have only mentioned once. So again, because I've learned this many, many times, so I can make fun of you guys if you don't remember it. Right? I'm sure that I didn't remember what I learned either. Right? Bavzilai Hagiladi was one of David's 3 friends who brought him supplies when he was in Machanaim, ready to fight Avshalom. So originally, Ziba was the one who came with 2 donkeys with the 200 loaves of bread and the raisins and the wine. Right? And you wondered how's the wine going to keep them awake, remember? Yeah. And that was your question. But then later on, when they got to Machanaim on the eastern side of the Jordan, so 3 people came and brought them supplies. Beds and sheep and cheeses and all sorts of things to give them supplies. Yeah? All right. So one of them was Barzillai HaGiladi, which makes sense because Gilad is exactly the area of Machanaim. That's where it is Gilad. Right, I think it's this week's parasha, right? That the 2 tribes, Manasseh, Reuben, and the half of tribe they asked for that area. It's called Gilad. That's the area they wanted. Okay, and that's where Machanaim, where David's headquarters for defending against the rebellion of Shaul was. And they brought supplies for all David's men. So one of them is now come to say goodbye to him to cross them over the Jordan, because they live on the eastern side, and David's going over the Jordan. So he's come to accompany him and say goodbye. Okay, this one. I don't know about the other 2, but this one came. Barzilai Hagilad Yorad Mei Roglim. He came from Roglim, which is where he lived. Ya'avor es HaMelech HaYarden. He crossed the king over the Jordan. L'shalcha, to send him away. Meaning he said goodbye to the king. You go home and I'm going home. But this was like where they would say goodbye at the Jordan. L'shalcha et HaYarden. It means to send him at the Jordan River. That's where they would say goodbye, because that was a natural place to stop. And instead of climbing up the mountain to Yerushalayim and walking all the way home, to say goodbye to him. Ubarzilai Zaken Ma'od. He was very old. How old was he? Ben Shmonim Shana. 80 years old. Now, it's true that 80-year-old is old. It's not very old. It's old. You know, if you'd say he was 110, I would say that's very old. but 80 is old, right? David HaMelech lived in 70, that's where he had 70 years. So Chazal say he actually aged, he was older than his age. We'll have to see why. He was very old. You know what I mean? There's a woman in my mother-in-law's old age home, she's 102, and I wouldn't say she's very old, yeah, she's old. Yeah? And she's, she walks around and she's 80, 70, she looks fine. She's over 100, right? So 80 isn't like, Moshe Rabbeinu lived till he was 120, Yeshua lived till he was 120. People do live really old, but 80 isn't that age.
Right.
Okay? V'hu, Chilkel HaSamelech, he had supply. Chilkel, probably not from the word kol. Kol means all. So all means he gave him everything he needed. He gave him all his bottom line.
Oh, right.
Right? We say mechalkel chaim b'chesed in the Shemona Esrei, right? Yosef is called somewhat, right? Kilkel means to give supplies. So he gave him everything he needed. Well, he had supplied the king with his needs. Beshivato, when he had settled the Machanaim, which was David's capital on the eastern side of Jordan. Ki ish gadol, hu ma'od. He was very big. What does that mean, very big? 6'4"? No, it means very, very rich. And the way he had the ability to supply David with all his needs when he was there. Right? So that's his past, and the king is very grateful of that. He says, Ata, you, avoriti, come over with me, come and cross over the Jordan with me. Come to Yerushalayim. And I will look after you, just like you looked after me in Machanaim. I'll look after you, I'll give you everything you need. Because he didn't, you can't use a credit card in Yerushalayim, right? So how's he going to, he has no need. He has, he didn't bring all his money with him. So I said, no, come to Yerushalayim, I'll look after you. How long for? No. A week, 2 weeks, month, whatever. He lives in Roglim. He doesn't live in Yerushalayim, but come, we'll chill out and go to Chav Yafa or whatever. You and me, I'll look after you. Don't stand the king. I know how to look after you. With me, be Yerushalayim, in Yerushalayim. Gaz says to the king, how many are the days of the years in my life? I mean, how many days, how much more long am I going to live? That I should come to Yerushalayim. If I were going to live a long time, I can come to Yerushalayim, see the sights, enjoy, go a bit touring, go around to see the nightlife. Yeah, you'll see why I'm saying that in a second. Not just a joke.
Oh,
right? You'll see in a second, right? But there would be a point. I'm an old man. You know what I mean? I go home. You go home. You're sitting by the coal fire. You're warm at night with your hot water bottle. I'm an old man. The old men don't go, on the skateboards around Yerushalayim. Right? That's for young men.
Yeah.
I hear this Yerushalayim's an interesting place. I obviously like it, but it's not for guys at my age. My age, you go to the old age home. You take a novel. You sit. Ben Shmeinim Shana Anochi Hayoim. I'm 80 years old today. Ha'eda Ben Tov L'Ra. Here's a question: do I know the difference between good and bad? I put in my false teeth. I can't taste anything. You understand? I don't know what's good. A good wine, a bad wine, a good piece. It's all the same. Im yitam avdecha es asher oichal. Do I taste? Does your servant taste what he eats? But my mother that age, the only thing she ate was ice cream. She had no teeth, so she couldn't eat anything, right? Ice cream, whatever. But ice cream she liked, But she didn't like to chew anything because it's she didn't have any teeth to chew it, and she didn't like her false teeth because they hurt her. So she ate ice cream. But he said the same thing. I can't taste anything good, but stuff. Do I taste what I drink? My taste buds are already worn out. Listen to this. In Eshma Oid, can I still hear? You hear an hearing aid. You can't hear anything at that age. You can't taste anything. You can't hear anything. So what am I going to Yerushalayim? Yeah, there's nice bars, and there's nice food, and nice restaurants. But guys at my age can't appreciate this. There's no point. Can I hear? Because sharim v'sharot. Can I hear? Shar means to sing. So what are sharim?
The singers.
And what are sharot?
Singers.
Female singers.
Female. Shock horror. David has a friend who listens to female singers. Don't you think that David would be shocked at the submission? So if I'll say, young girls, what, babies? Babies don't sing.
No.
Men are allowed to listen to women singing. Look, it could be in those days it wasn't forbidden, because it's not biblically forbidden. True. Granted, it's not biblically forbidden to listen to women singing. Right?
Isha, right?
What? Kol Isha, right? You're not allowed to listen to women singing, right? But it's true, it's rabbinic in nature, right? So, and it could very well be at the time of this story it wasn't forbidden, right? But just because it's not forbidden, it's hard for me to imagine that David used to do that. You know, when he wanted to relax, let's have some women singing. Can you imagine David HaMelech listen to women singing like it? It's hard to believe that David. Yes, we might know people who might do that. Yes, but David HaMelech's friends used to do that, right? So Chazal say, yeah, this guy he wasn't so free, right? He was into that sort of thing. Now that Chazal say explained why he aged prematurely, because a promiscuous life can make you age, makes your hair fall out, and all sorts of
What happened to Adam giving him the 7 years?
What?
Adam.
No, that's that. No, you're talking about David. This is David's Barzillai. Barzillai is already a very old man when he's 80. Why? He can't taste anything. He's got the teeth. He can't hear anything. Why? Because in his youth he used to spend his time listening to women singing.
It's like completely used up. Like again.
Right, all his training. So therefore he says, you know what? There's no point in me. I appreciate your show of gratitude, and your gesture is very appreciated, but it's wasted on me. I've got better ideas. Right? That's what he says. Why should your servant be a burden? It's just a burden. And this old man, I've got my walking stick, my hearing aid, don't taste anything. What's the point? So he says, you know what? I have a son. Let him enjoy it. You know, you'll pay me by letting my son enjoy the life of Yerushalayim. You know, he'll stay here for a few months or go around, whatever I was used to, right? He said my son will do it instead, and that's how you pay your gratitude to me. I'll be very, very, I'll appreciate that. Kim-at, who's Kim-at? That's his son's name, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think we're gonna. No. His son's name. Sorry. No. Mistake. His son's name is Kim-ham. No, Kim-at means just a little bit. Means I'll go over the Jordan for a little bit of the way, we'll walk a few yards and then I'll go back. Kimat yavor avdoch es hayarden es hamelech. For a little bit, ma'at, for a little bit, your servant will cross over the Jordan with the king. V'lama yigmaleni hamelech hagumulah hazot. Why should the king repay me this repayment? Ligmom is to repay. But that's not necessary. It's not necessary to do this. It's not. There's no point. Yashav no avdocha. Your servant will go back. Sorry, Yeshev no avdecha. Your servant will settle. Where? He's talking about back home. V'amus, and I will die be'iri in my city, in kever ovi, with the grave of my father, ve'imi. I'll go back home to die in my city. Because I'm an old man. So I'll come with you. There's no need to pay me like this. I'll go back home and I will die.
It sounds like he almost is like he's got already a grave ready for him.
Well, yes, that's how old he is, right? Yeah. Okay. Behold, Avdecha Kimham, your servant Kimham. Now we don't know at the moment, but this is actually the name of his son. Later on, we'll find out. Avdecha Kimham, your servant Kimham, Ya'avar Imador. He can go over with my master the king. Say lie and do for him what is good in your eyes. Now it looks like Barzillai wants to give his son a better chance than himself. He doesn't say do what I would consider good. That would be going out listening to the women singing. Do what you think is good. You send him to a nice evening koilo where he'll learn and be nice from Jewish kid. Okay, assuming he was Jewish, I guess so. Okay, the king agrees to this suggestion. Kimham, your son, doesn't say your son, will cross over with me, and I will do with him what's good in your eyes. That's interesting. So Barzillai said, do to my son what's good in your eyes, and it could be that what Barzillai doesn't understand, what's good in my eyes, your son won't appreciate. Understand? I know the sort of life you've led, and I know the sort of life you brought your kid to do, and therefore telling me to do what I think is good in my eyes, he's not going to appreciate that. I'm going to sit and learn Mishnayos with him. He's not going to like that. What I'll do for him is what's good in your eyes. which is a whole different ball game. You go out for 6-pack, right? I've got it right this time. 6-pack, and that's the more thing that you're used to. I know how to do that with him too, to chill, right? And the rabbis know how to chill too. So that's what David said. I'll do what's good in your eyes with your son. I think that's the way to read it. Yeah? I say, Lord, what's good in your eyes. Whatever you choose, I will do. Whatever you want, I'll do for you. In some way of showing my appreciation. And all the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. The king kissed Barzillai, and he blessed him, and he went home. He said goodbye, right? Which is really what goodbye means, no? Goodbye means God should be with you. Goodbye.
Wow.
Good is God, bye means with you. Right? So God should be with you. So that's a blessing. So he said goodbye. Right? And he returned to his place. And the king went to Gilgal. Gilgal is the first place you reach on the western side of the Jordan. So he's crossed over the Jordan. Gilgal is where the Jews performed a mass circumcision after they crossed over the Jordan many hundreds of years before this. The Kimham of our Imai, and Kimham crossed over with him. Kimham is
the son of
Baz. For some reason or other, his name has changed slightly. It went from Kimham to Kimhon. See, there's a nun instead of a men.
Is it still the same guy?
Well, it must be. Who is it? Who is it if it's not the same person?
The sister, because it's a nun.
Because a nun is a feminine ending. Yes, I don't know why it's changed from a masculine ending to a feminine ending, but okay. If it was a woman, it'd say Avra. It can't be a woman. It has to be a man. I don't know. V'chol Yehuda, and all the people of Yehuda who had come down to the Jordan to bring David back, He'aviru es HaMelech, they crossed the king over. V'gam Chatzi Am Yisrael, also half of the Jewish people. I mean, by this time, after all these events happened, Yisrael had arrived too. Who were Yisrael? The representatives of the other tribes. So we've only been focusing on Shimi ben Gera, the elders of Yehuda, Mephibosheth, Tziva, and Barzillai Giladi. All these people had their say in bringing the Christ over, and in the meantime, the representatives of the Jews had arrived. And it says half. Maybe only half the representatives have arrived. Or it could be the other half, it means. Although it's not really half in the normal sense, 50-50, but we call that the other half, right? And the one half was Yehuda, the representative of Yehuda, and the other Jews had their representative too, and they had arrived and also crossed Jordan over the Jordan. How are we doing for time?
There.
Just time. Well, let's do to the Samach. The Hine, and behold, Kol Ish Yisrael Boy, El HaMelech. All the men of Israel were coming to the king. We've got the king crossing over the Jordan, together with the people of Yehuda, and then the people of Israel also, and they're coming towards the king. These representatives of the other tribes. And they said to the king, you see, they're in a bit of a shock. Like, they didn't get there first. Even though they were the ones who were the first to come up with the idea of bringing the king back. It wasn't the people from Yehuda. On the contrary, the people of Yehuda were very quiet about it. No, they didn't know what to do with the people in Yehuda. People in Yehuda were like, they supported Avshalom. And they were worried, if we go back to Yehuda, David will chop our heads off. Oh, now David has shown he's not going to influence them by appointing a Massa, by pardoning Shimi, and all that story, yeah? But they were the people of Israel, the other tribes, were the first to say, well, we have to bring David back. Let's do it. And they made a delegation. When the delegation arrives, they've been preempted by the people of Yehuda. Now, why did that happen? Because David sent them a message, says, you guys better hurry. Because the guys from Israel are already thinking about it. And if you don't go and come, they're going to get here first. And that's going to look really bad. And that actually plays out. Because the people from Yehuda come there, and the people from Israel have arrived and realized that the other guys got there first. And they're not happy about this. Why have our brothers stolen you? They feel that the people from Yehuda have stolen David. They wanted to show their support for David, and they come second. So they're also showing their support for David, but then they can't then prove that they were first. They had this idea and it didn't work out yet. And then they got there, somebody else is there first. That's nice. Why did you steal our brother, Ish Yehuda, men of Yehuda? Vayaviru es HaMelech, and they crossed over the king Bezbeis and his family as Hayad in the Jordan, and all the people of David with him. But you all did this. Why did you do this? So they've got a complaint against the men of Yehuda. Should we continue? Just you two, so finish the chapter. Vayan kol ish Yehuda al ish Yisrael. So the people of Yehuda answered back. They said, Ki karoi v'melech elai, because the king is closer to us. That's why we're here first. He's our relative. Now, I don't know if that was the right thing to say, because that's just going to anger the people of Israel more.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, he's your cousin, is he? That's why you're here first. So you're the guys who are going to be in the, you're showing your loyalty to him, and now you're all, all close circle, and we're going to be left out of any political appointments, right? Why are you so angry? Chara is to be angry, right? Like v'chara af Hashem in the Kriya Shema, God gets burning anger with you. So why does it bother you so much that we're here first? Because we're related. That's why. David's my cousin, my second cousin 3 times removed. We're all related, us guys. That's why we're here first. Did we eat something from the king? Im niseis nisalanu, did he give us a present? Like, why are you so upset? We're related, we came first. It's not like we got anything from him. We didn't get some big feast or some. Niseis means to pick something up. In the context, it means give us something to take home, right? Did we get any presents? Vayan ish Yehuda, Israel to the people of Yehuda, said to the men of Israel, said to the men of Yehuda, we have 10 portions with the king. That's why we should be here first. You're only one tribe, we're 10 tribes. That's why, you're related, but we have a much bigger representation. We represent a much bigger section of the Jewish people. Esei Yodos, that really means 10 hands. It already means 10 tribes, 10 times more than you have. Now there's one missing, isn't there? Because if there's Yehuda against
10, then we need one more.
Was one missing. Okay, so it could be they make 11 times, but 10 is just approximate.
What was the word for hat?
For what?
For hat, 10 hats.
Yad. Yadot is the plural. Yad is a hand. The bottom of page 46.
Hands, not hats.
Hand. You see the second to last word on the page. Yodos li.
Yeah.
So we have 10 hands. Maybe they should have said 11, and 10 is just approximate. Maybe Levi was missed out from this calculation.
Not Benjamin, because it was Yehuda and Benjamin against
Where do you see Benjamin? Joined? Because where Benjamin joined Yehuda, where do you see that? You're talking about later on.
No, because you told that you said that you have the Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Yosef, and
Binyamin was not on Yosef's side. On the contrary, Binyamin was Shaul's side. They were not on Yehuda's side. So it was really 11. But it could be the tribe of Binyamin have already had a representation, because Shimon ben Gera came with 1,000 people from Binyamin. So it wasn't just Yehuda who was being represented in the first delegation, it was also Binyamin. So there was the other delegation had 10 tribes, and then there were 2 single tribes on their own. So when they say 10 hands, they don't mean 10 times as much. But it's 10 times as much as the tribe of Yehuda, right? And they're the ones. Okay, so we have, or maybe they're just saying we have 10 portions. There's 12 portions altogether, and we've got 10 of those portions, because our delegation represents 10 tribes. And your 2 separate delegations represent 1 tribe each. So that's why we're upset, that we're the majority and we were just coming third place, and we're the main group. So you might be related, but we're the majority.
It's interesting that they were so quick to get rid of the king, and now they're all fighting to get the king back.
Yeah. It's interesting, yeah.
People don't know.
Because I suppose they want to show each of them is worried about what the king's going to do to them, right? So they have to bend over backwards to show to the king that they're on his side. But Gamba David, Esei Yonos li b'melech v'gamba David. we've got 10 portions in the king and in David.
It's interesting.
Is that the same person?
Is it like the objective kingship and then the person David?
Yes, probably. Or it could be we have a relationship with David even before he was king. Because as a general in Shaul's army, we represent that time period too. Ani mimcha. I am more than you. Means Umadua hekilisani. So why have you treated me lightly? From the word kal. You're treating us lightly, pushing us aside as if we're unimportant. You're closer, but we're the majority. V'lai haya devari rishain. Wasn't my idea first. It was my idea to bring the king back, and you just got in there quicker than us. But it was our idea. We're the ones who brought the idea up in the first place. V'lai haya devari rishain li lahashiv es malki. Wasn't my matter first to bring back my king? Vayikesh devar ish Yehuda midvar ish Yisrael. And the matter of the men of Yehuda was harsher. Vayikesh, like the word kasher. Means in this debate, we don't know all the ins and outs of this debate. We just heard a little bit of it. But the people of Yehuda were more vocal, harsher. They won the arguments, and they shouted, "No, get out of here, guys! There was a big, hafganah here about who has the right to David's support, and we were here first, and you were here second. It was our idea, and we're related, and we're more. And but the side of Yehuda won the debate. Like Yikesh devar ish Yehuda, the statement or the claim of the men of Yehuda was kasher, means harsher, said in a more harsh tone, or they beat them down with their voices or with their arguments more than the words of the men of Israel. And then we'll see on Sunday, please God, how the men of Israel react to this loss of the debate about who has the. It's been a silly debate now. Like what? Can't we all just have King David as our king?
Yeah,
right. But they felt, what's the word? Rejected by the fact that they got in there first, and the people said, "Yeah, get out of here. No need." I mean, I'm making extreme. That's what he said. But it says that the people of Yehuda were stronger in this debate. Not physically stronger, but they, more vocal. I think that's the word to use. They shouted them down. And the people of Israel don't like this. And they're going to be very negative about how to deal with this.
That's the nature of the Shevet Yehuda, right? Is that they're more warrior-like than...
Yeah, it could be they scared them into saying nothing. I don't know. It just doesn't say what they did.
Right.
It just says whatever they did, the people of Yehuda were stronger in this thing. Okay, so the people are going to react, as we'll see, to the next rebellion.
Rabbi, should we not do one more to show that we don't care about...
No, there's a Samach. If there's a Samach, it's okay. If there'd be no Samach, then we
care about what?
About the non-Jewish chapter division. So if the guy's got it wrong, then we make a protest. But he get it right. The person has to get it right, you know what I mean?
But, and we have...
Sometimes has a pay. Pay shows it as a more serious break. Samach is also a break.